We are in Cliffwood Beach, Old Bridge Waterfront Park, because technically we're in Old Bridge. However, trying to allay the fears of everybody who has suddenly forgotten what the sky looks like in terms of drone activity. Because miraculously, nobody ever sees these things in daylight, huh? So what we're doing is we are trying our best to show you what air traffic looks like, because, you know, there's these things called airplanes and they fly around all the time. I am right across the bay from New York City. Yeah, that's the Verrazano Narrows and the eponymous Verrazano Bridge right there. So there's my proof as to where on the planet I am. And I notice some of those buildings appear to be a little bit below the horizon. That's because the Earth is round. Yeah, I know that's actually pretty difficult for people to fathom as well, but you are on a rock floating through space. That rock is roughly spherical, and because it has an atmosphere, you're going to see some visual disturbances out there on the apparent horizon because of refraction and things like that. But yeah, we're going to see if we can find any airplanes. Well, we're actually going to go to still pictures here because, number one, my camera battery is getting a little bit low. Rookie mistake, I know. But moreover, it was pretty cold, and cold hands trying to hold this DSLR with the 300mm telephoto on it steady enough to get decent video without making all of you motion sick, pretty difficult. So stills it is. However, I have Flight Radar 24 running the whole time I was out there trying to take a look at some airplanes. So I would pick one out that looked like it was going to make a close enough approach to me, and then I would decide to try and find it. And the first one that I found was right where I expected it to be. It is this Boeing 737-823, registration November 9007 Alpha November. It was operating as American Airlines Flight 1796 from Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas to Newark, New Jersey. Here photographed right at the mouth of the Raritan River over the area of the Edison and Driscoll bridges at a barometric altitude of about 2,650 feet and ground speed of 196 knots per Flight Radar 24. Exactly where I expected it to be, and very obviously you can see that this is clearly a Boeing 737. I find it amazing that people are never seeing these alleged drones in daylight. They're only seeing them at night, where they see flashing strobe lights, they see green and red marker lights, and then they see bright white lights in the apparent front of these things. You don't see those things so much on these commercial airplanes in daylight because daylight is brighter than these lights are for the most part. But they're there. And this next aircraft that I managed to photograph here, this one is November 9016 November Kilo, operating as Spirit Airlines Flight 206. This is an Airbus A320-271 November from Charlotte to New York, LaGuardia, here photographed according to Flight Radar 24 at 5,154 feet barometric at a ground speed of 287 knots. I think that this altitude that they're giving me is a little bit high because this one was apparently a little bit lower than that to my eye. But for all I know, it could have been at 5,000 feet. Regardless, very clearly, this is an Airbus A320 in the Spirit Airlines livery. It's clearly yellow. You can kind of see the descender of the P in Spirit there along the port side of the fuselage from our vantage point. However, the majority of that title graphic is blocked out by the port side engine. But I included this shot here because this exhibits the stereotypical, roughly triangular shape that people are reporting from these alleged drone sightings, meaning that they're seeing these lights that are green and red from either side to their apparent perspective. They're seeing flashing lights on the top or bottom, and they're seeing a flashing light at the rear and solid bright white lights at the front. If you know anything about where the marker lights, landing lights, and strobe lights are going to be located on a commercial airliner, as this is, you'll know that those locations fit precisely with the configuration of an aircraft like this, the Airbus A320. And the last picture that I managed to capture here, because, well, this is a pretty academic exercise by this point, and my camera battery was about packing up. This is an Airbus A319-132, registration November 899er Uniform Alpha, operating as United Flight 637. Also happens to be from Dallas-Fort Worth to Newark, New Jersey. Here photographed again, as with the previous American Airlines aircraft, at a barometric altitude of approximately 2,234 feet, a ground speed of 182 knots, again right at the mouth of the Raritan River in the vicinity of the Driscoll and Edison bridges. Once again, you can see the disposition of the aircraft. We're obviously talking about a twin-engine, low-wing, single-wing jet, as the Airbus A319 most definitely is. And once again, you're not seeing the bright lights on this thing because it's daylight. And those lights, although they are running at all times that the airplane is powered up and in operation, you can't really see them too clearly in daylight because daylight is brighter than the marker lights on the airplane. I know that this is a little bit difficult for some people to understand. However, once again, as with the other two aircraft, Flight Radar 24 told me that this one would be passing roughly my location, so I keyed into it, I located it visually, and I was able to track it and obviously photograph it. All three airplanes that I have photographed here did not catch me by surprise. Their flight plans obviously were filed, and they were transmitting on their transponders, as they should, at all times, enabling me to locate them on the ground in real time and to follow them and to photograph them. No surprise here. Everything that I wanted to photograph was right where I was expecting it to be at about the time that I was expecting it to be there. Almost like air traffic control and air traffic in general is a highly regulated and highly choreographed dance between filed flight plans, established routes, and human monitoring and execution, both in the cockpit as well as on the ground, in a menagerie of control centers across the world, making all of this happen day in and day out without a second thought by anyone in the general public. For the general public, though, it's really disturbing to me that there apparently are thousands upon thousands of people here in New Jersey who have not looked up in who knows how long, and they don't remember what an airliner looks like at night. Every alleged picture of an alleged drone that I have seen that is clearly not some sort of hack job Photoshop thing is showing a configuration that looks more or less like this. It's roughly triangular. We're seeing bright white lights in the front. We're seeing a flashing strobe light, usually white in the back. Could be red as well. We're also seeing marker lights that are green and red without fail, and we're also seeing sometimes flashing white strobe lights alongside those marker lights, the red and green lights as well. Exactly what the FAA says a commercial airliner should have. I have no words other than to say, look up, and while you're at it, touch grass as well. And if you're out there trying to foment panic and skepticism, or in the worst case, I've seen some rather famous people going on Twitter advocating for the shoot down of commercial airliners, I think maybe a knock on your door is warranted because you have no idea of what you're doing and you are advocating for criminal acts. I've even seen people on the internet posting themselves in the commission of criminal acts, such as firing weapons or shining laser pointers at what are clearly civilian aircraft. That's very illegal. Don't do it. And if I see you doing that, I'm going to call the cops, as you should too if you see that. So, my 2 cents on the New Jersey drone issue. Look up, touch grass, and stop believing all of the hysteria. Thank you very much.